Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Muscle Car Appraisal YouTube channel. Do you know where all your friends are? If not, get in touch with them. Tell them they should be right here, your favorite place for automotive news and interaction. Wednesday night, 9 o'clock, a few minutes after. A couple difficulties, but here we are, ready to rock and roll. The Muscle Car Appraisal channel here is part of a community called the #InsaneFriends, and we support each other, and a bunch of the people in the community have their own live streams. I'm going to run through a list, and we ask that you support the other channels in this #InsaneFriends community. All these times are Eastern Standard Time. On Sundays, Sane Auto, Victor Sane, has his show at 7:30 p.m. Gregory Salvatore has his at 9 p.m. Again, these are all Eastern Standard Time. Also on Sunday, new addition to the lineup, Tim Bearden. His show is at 4:30 p.m. Mondays, Etard Adventures is on at 9 p.m. Tuesday, Bubsification is on at 9 p.m. On Wednesday, Sane Enterprises is on at 7:30, and at 9 o'clock, it's us, Muscle Car Appraisal. Thursday, Dorito and Lucha Cabra is on from 8 p.m. till 9:30, and Easy 2 Tips, Tricks, etc., is on from 10:30 p.m. till midnight. On Saturday, Chopper's Rule is on at 6:30 p.m. and Fab Automotive Detailing is on at 9 p.m. So, again, we ask that you help support this community of friends. Check out their channels. You have something 6 out of 7 nights a week. Tune in. Take in the show. Everyone will appreciate it. We're going to start off tonight's show with some trivia questions. We'll have one for General Motors, specifically Chevrolet this evening. We'll switch that up with some of the other GM divisions as time goes on. We'll have a Mopar question, and we'll also have a Ford question this evening. We're going to start off with our Chevrolet question. In 1967, what was the only car that was available with a 350 cubic inch engine? And we have one strong supporter of our channel that is more than likely watching. Can't mention his name because that's actually cheating to not only him but to the other people watching as well. And I'm sure he knows the answer. I'm sure he knows I'm talking about him. So he's going to be quiet, and he's going to let everybody else have the opportunity to chime in. So again, Chevrolet, 1967, what car was available with a 350 cubic inch engine? There was only one car in the entire Chevrolet lineup. Our Mopar question. This is a repeat from our first live. In an AAR CUDA, 1970, there's something different about the wiper motor that is in the AAR car, and we're looking to see what that difference is. Let's say there's two things. I'll take either one of the answers, but there's two main things different about a wiper motor in that car compared to a non-AAR CUDA. And for our Ford fanatics, what is the name of the company that was involved with installation of the Boss 429 engine into the Boss Mustang for 1969 and 1970? And while we're at it, I'm going to throw out one that just ranges through all of the automakers. In the United States, what was the first year where it was mandated to have a center high mounted stop lamp? It's that third brake light in the back of the car. There was a specific year where the government mandated in an automobile, but then there's another year where it was mandated in a truck. We'll take either one of those years, but please specify which one was for car, which one's truck if you happen to know them both. So chime in, Bob, producing the show back over there. We'll monitor the chat, see who's chiming in. Make notice to me that we have a correct answer, and then we'll give you a shout out. Going back to last week, we had a comparison between a Camaro SS and a Mustang GT 350. We went through a whole list of things, everything from base MSRP, engine cubic inches, transmission types, vehicle weights, horsepower, 0 to 60 times, quarter mile times. Kind of gave the overall nod to the Mustang. Kind of left out the Mopar people. We don't want to do that. We have a lot of Mopar fans. So this week's question to all the Mopar people is, when looking at a Camaro and a Mustang, where does the Challenger fit into that? Lots of horsepower, great 0 to 60, fantastic quarter mile time. Specific, let's specify the Hellcat. It's 707 horsepower, tons of torque, available as both automatics and sticks. Great cars. Where do you think that car fits into the category? The Challengers or the Charger, really not known for their handling like a Camaro SS or a Mustang GT 350, but certainly a drag strip performer. So where do you Mopar people think that Challenger fits in? Can you handle a Camaro and a Mustang on a road course, or do you just want to meet them on the drag strip and clean house? And while we're talking about that, let's throw in a Demon. How many of our fans out there know the specifics of a Demon? That car actually pulled a really high number on a skid pad. Who out there knows what that number is? So besides being a drag strip terror, the Demon is capable of some pretty good cornering times. So feel free to chime in on that. Speaking of chiming in, we have a feature here on the show where we would like to discuss your car. So send us photographs to mycaronmca@gmail.com. It could be photographs of your first car, your current car, your daily driver that you want to talk about, a show car. Doesn't need to be an extreme show car. Could be something that you take to Cars and Coffee, something that is of interest to you, and you may feel it may be of interest to others. You may think it has a great story behind it. It was maybe your first car you were passionate about when you were in high school. Maybe it's a car that your parents gave you. It could be for any reason. Reach out to us at mycaronmca@gmail.com. Send us your photographs. Send us a little bit of background. We'll get in touch with you to make specific arrangements for you to be a guest on our show. We'll be able to zoom you in by video, so you can be a split screen guest with myself. If you prefer not to be on video and you want just audio, we can handle that. Or if you just want us to talk about your car in general, we're happy to do that as well. So send us some information. Every car out there has a story behind it in some way, shape, or form. Could be something as simple as you made a heck of a deal with the dealer when you bought it brand new. But let's talk about it. Send us some information. We'll be happy to make you part of our show. Let's see. In this week's news, last week we went through a few things, but this week I want to bring up Toyota Supra. There's a new one that's going to be available as a 2020 model. Not quite ready yet at the dealer, but it's coming. And it's going to be considered a 5th generation, so maybe they're going to call that a Mark V. But I want to talk about the Mark IV car. Earlier this year, there was a 1994 car that brought $121,000 for a sale price on a website called Bring a Trailer. A great place to sell a car, gathers a lot of attention. There's other websites out there monitoring Bring a Trailer, specifically Jalopnik. They will write an article about a car that they see up on Bring a Trailer, which brings more attention to the seller, and it works out for everybody. So earlier this year, it had reached $90,000, then it went quiet, and ultimately the car sold for $121,000. And it happens to be that the Mark IV Supra is the orange car that was used in the first Fast and Furious movie. That car raced, it was heavily modified in the movie, and it raced a Ferrari, and it beat the Ferrari, and the market just went crazy for the Mark IV car. So at the time of that sale for $121,000, it was the highest price paid for a Mark IV Supra. Then later on in the year, another 1994 model year car with a target top had 11,200 miles, and it brought $173,600 at the RM Sotheby's auction, Amelia Island in Florida. Absolutely insane. $173,600 for a Mark IV Supra, 1994. Crazy stuff. But the Fast and the Furious movie brought a lot of attention to that car, and that car responds very well to modifications. There's guys that are daily driving 800, 1200 rear wheel horsepower cars, pull up next to one of those things and roll race on the highway, and that car just pulls and pulls and pulls. Some of our fans out there may even own one. We'd love to hear about it. Send us some information. Again, we'll make you part of the show. You can tell us if it's stock issue, if it's been modified, what type of modifications you did. The cars gather a lot of attention. Later on this year, that 2020 model is going to be available. And next week we'll bring you some specifics about the car. There's a bunch of information floating around, what the pricing is going to be, what the 0-60 time is. It's very, very impressive. If memory serves me correctly, it's as fast as 3.8 seconds, 0 to 60. Very impressive. Running the quarter in the low 12-second range, maybe somewhere around 12.3. Again, I'm going by memory. I'll have specifics next week. Been a crazy week for me. Priced $50,000 and up, a couple different packages, couple different trim levels. So again, we'll bring you some information on that car next week. But in the meantime, let's bring you some cars that I looked at recently. This past Sunday, the day before Memorial Day, I went to Musclepalooza, put on by Hemmings Motor Magazine, at the Lebanon Valley Dragway in Lebanon Valley, New York. One of the first cars that I walked by was a 69 Super B. And here's a picture of the front end of the car. Right on his license plate, 69B. Unmistakable car coming down the road at you. Rear view showing the stripe. Was a very, very nice black car with a gray stripe. Here's an underhood shot. It's a single 4-barrel car with the Mopar Performance black crinkle valve covers. Super clean under the hood. Here's a nice left front 3/4 view. Got the nice proper mag wheels on the car. Here's a close-up of the B emblem in the back. Very nice job laying the stripe. This was one of the first cars that I walked by when I walked onto the property. After I paid my admission and walked through the gate, a 67 Nova drove by me. We'll take a peek at that. And here it is, pulling into the lot. I'll let you listen. Okay, the car's loud, the car's mean, and the car's also tuned very properly. That car did not miss a beat while it was idling through the lot. She went right into reverse gear, parked, zero issues. So I spent some time with the owner, and turns out to be the car's for sale. So here's a nice front end shot of the car. License plate is unsafe. It's a little play on words. Actually, the car is built very, very well, and the car is actually quite safe. Here's a nice left 3/4, getting closer to the engine. It's well over 500 cubic inches, makes over 1,000 horsepower. The engine has been dynoed. The upper purple paint is marbleized. Fantastic job front to back with that. Continues on to the valve covers. You also have some graphic in the back that is done very, very nicely. That gray paint is metallic. It does shine. It's not a flat gray paint. See, we get into a nice left side shot. It does have a roll cage. This is a Chris Alston chassis, front to rear, 4-wheel disc brakes, tubular control arms in the front. Great shot of the trunk. There is storage in all those areas. There's a shot of the right front suspension showing you the tubular control arms and the coil-over shock. Here's the left side. It actually says Alston on there, I believe. Left side of the interior, custom console. It is an automatic transmission, custom steering wheel, all the gauges showing you everything. Fantastic custom leather in the car. Again, very nice console. Just a super, super nice car. So this car is for sale. I will be inspecting this car and doing a full-blown appraisal with documentation of all the hardware that's in the car, all the specifications on the engine, the transmission, the rear end, front brakes, rear brakes, what tires are on the car, all the specifics of the interior. Even the headliner in this car is custom. There's a design pattern up in the headliner. This car did not miss a trick. So if you're interested and want some details, I do have some information at this particular time, but I'll be making a trip to New York and spending a full day with this car, reviewing all the paperwork, the underside of the car, everything, talking to the owner, getting all the specifics. So if you're interested, reach out to me at mycaronmca@gmail.com, and I'll keep you on my list of people to talk to when I have all the specifics, and I'll get you in contact with the owner. Super nice guy, knows the car inside out, upside down and backwards, had the whole thing apart, knows every square inch. So, and my appraisal will detail all of that. So after I got done looking at that, I was able to walk around, and I decided this week would be a segment would be Chevelle education. We're going to look at Chevelles from 1966 to 1970, and I'll point out the differences accordingly between the cars. So the next time you're at a show, you'll be able to pick up on all the specifics. As you walk by the front or walk by the back, you'll be able to say, oh, that one's a 66, or that one's a 68, or a 67, a 69. So let's look at some pictures here. We'll start in chronological order with this 1966. This is a nice underhood shot. Oh, by the way, this is the car that I successfully won the bid on at the Mecum auction in Indianapolis. For my customer here in Connecticut. The car was delivered yesterday. We'll showcase this car a little bit more next week. Here's a front end for a 1966 Chevelle. Note the black grille. Let's go back a picture, Bob, or we'll spin all the way around. Note the position of the amber parking lights in the front bumper, centered underneath the headlights on each side. That's one way to look at the front end of a 66 and note. Right 3/4 view. Let's look at the slant of the fender. But before we get there, let's look at the back end of the car. Note that the tail lights are short, rectangular, and long. 67 is going to have a completely different taillight. 68 is a completely different body style car. So right now we're going to compare 66 and 67. So note the short rectangular taillights. Keep that in mind, because when we make it to 1968, you're going to notice a difference. I'm sorry, 1967, you're going to notice a difference. And there's a 67 right there. So these taillights are taller, outboard, not as rectangular, and actually turn the corner a little bit. So as you're standing next to a 66, you don't see any taillight from the side. On a 67, you will see some taillight on the side. Back to the 66, we see the short rectangular taillights. And back to the 67, we see the taller, more squared off taillights. Telltale sign, very different taillights on the two cars. The reverse lights also on a 66, we're looking at this bronze car, the reverse lights, the white lens, is incorporated into the tail light. On the blue 67, the reverse lights are down in the rear bumper on either side of the license plate. So reverse lights, tail lights, two telltale, no pun intended, signs of the difference between a 66 and a 67. Let's move forward with our blue 67 car and look at some other things. Note the signal lights on this car. They are more outboard, and they are more under the outboard low beam headlight, and the grille is different. You have multiple bars where the 66 just basically had a flat black grille with the SS emblem in the middle, and this grille has more bright work in it, more color, very different. The moldings outboard of the headlamps are different as well. Let's move on with our blue car. Here's the hood on a blue 67. The scoops, the bubbles, the humps, whatever you want to call them, on this hood are molded into the hood. In 66, that raised bubble section is a bolt-on. 67 has the raised bubble section that's molded into the hood with the drop-in louvers. 66, the entire thing is a bolt-on. Moving on to here, let's look at the fender. The front vertical surface is more vertical than on a 66. It has a molding that runs vertical above the bumper. And Bob, if we can go back to that bronze 66, one of those pictures, I believe from the right front, is going to show you the... there we go. There's a close-up of the 66 fender. The front line has a severe angle, probably at a good 45-degree angle, sweeping towards the back of the car. Very different than the 67, which is much, much more vertical. And Bob, can you go backwards one more on this bronze car? There is the picture of the hood right there that shows the outline of the bubble, the scoop, the hump, whatever you want to call it. You can see the entire outline because that's a completely separate piece, and that's bolt-in on 1966. And oh, by the way, you cannot put a 1967 hood on a 66 car because the fenders are drastically different and the hood just will not line up. So moving back to our blue 67 Chevelle, let's get a look at that front edge of the fender line again. And there it is, much more vertical, does not sweep back more than the 66. So something to look out for. Moving on to a 1968 car. Here we have a red Chevelle, and we are back to short, wide rectangular taillights. 69 is going to have a completely different taillight. The quarter panel extensions are different because that's where the taillights are mounted. So remember these short horizontal taillights. And then look at the front end. Note where the signal lights are here in this car. Again, centered below each set of headlights. And you have a black grille with just an SS emblem in the middle. There's a nice shot. This is an absolutely beautiful car. I chose this one not only because it was a 68, but because it was an extremely nice example. And oh, by the way, the car won an award. We'll talk more about that next week. Here's a nice underhood shot of that same red 68. It's a 325 horse car, so it has a snorkel style air cleaner. 350 horse car went to an open air cleaner. Has a cast iron intake, which is supposed to. 350 horse car also had a cast iron intake, and 375 went to aluminum. Has a black base with a chrome lid. Very, very nice, highly detailed, super clean under the hood. The picture really doesn't do it justice. And there's your front end shot again. Again, note where the signal lights are on this car. So now let's move over to our 69 Chevelle. And note the front end of this car. So now you have your signal lights, which are no longer amber. They're clear. They're inboard in the bumper. Inboard of each of the high beam headlights. And you have a bar going straight across the grille, which the 68 is just a black grille with an SS emblem. The 69 has this bar going through the middle. So again, just like 67 and 66, there's a difference between 69 and 68 in the grille and the signal lights. Let's move on with this 69. This is a 350 horse car, so you've gone to an open element air cleaner. This also happens to be a little bit more busy because it's an air conditioning car. If it was a 375 horse car, it would not have air conditioning. 375 horse cars were solid lifter camshafts, and they simply did not have air conditioning. Whether it be a small block or a big block, solid lifter engines did not have AC. Here's a rear left 3/4 rear view, and see how big these taillights have gotten. So the quarter panel extension is different because it houses this bigger taillight. There's another right 3/4 front view. This was another very, very nice car, and it also won an award. There were other 68s and other 69s, but I picked these two because they were such fantastic examples, and taking pictures gave me the opportunity to speak to the owners, get some history on the car. Again, we'll talk about that next week. Let's see. Now we should be able to move on to a 1970 Chevelle, which is a one-year deal all on its own. You have still maintained dual headlights. 1971 went to a single headlamp per side. You have the signal lights in the bumper, outboard, centered between the lights, and you have a two-tiered grille. Each tier is surrounded by a full molding, and you have your SS emblem in the middle. Here is a shot of that 1970. This is a 396 car with the cowl induction hood. That brings us an air cleaner with a rubber seal that seats up against the bottom of the hood when it's closed. Super clean under the hood. Here's a 1970 interior shot. Again, 1970 all by itself compared to 66 to 69. This was a bucket seat console. This is a bucket seat automatic car, and you can see the famous horseshoe shifter there. And we're back to a 4-speed car. Actually, you know what? This is the 1969 car. So it has a different dash, different bucket seats. They're both Strato style buckets, but with different material, different patterns. This is a 4-speed car, where the 70 was an automatic car. So this is the dashboard on the 70. You have your additional gauges in different places for the 70. Different steering wheel for 1970 as well. Here's our 69, and here's our 70. And there's our left 3/4 of the 1970 car. This car was stunning. So here's our feature of every car tells a story. This is a 1968 Dodge Charger. The license plate is the one. I spoke to this gentleman to get some background on this car. He purchased this car brand new and kept it for quite a number of years. Ultimately sold the car, and he lost track of it. But then he decided he wanted another Charger, and he looked at a whole bunch of Chargers. And they were rust buckets, and they had issues, and some had restorations, and he wasn't happy with the restoration. He really wanted his Charger back. So he got on the internet. He got into chat groups. He got into registries. And he had his original vehicle identification number. So he searched for his VIN, and he found it in registries. And he contacted the people who had owned the car, and they said, no, I sold the car to this guy over here. And they passed along the information, and he tracked that car down by VIN to Texas. He got on an airplane, he went to Texas, he had some of his original paperwork, he verified it was his original car. It had bounced around to many different states with many different owners, but he found the car. And a long story short, he bought it back, and he was absolutely thrilled. The car had suffered a couple issues here and there during its time away, but he performed a full-on restoration, painted it black, and did an incredible job to wet sand and buff the car. Brought it up all the way to a 5,000 grit because he still wasn't happy at 3,000. He was looking for that extra special something with black. Buffed it, polished it, pretty much spent a full week wet sanding, buffing, polishing, hand rubbing the car, and it is absolutely phenomenal. The black paint on this car is absolutely gorgeous. Here's a great underhood shot. Everything is finely detailed, exactly the way it's supposed to be. Here's a gorgeous interior shot. The interior is spot on the way it's supposed to be. Got some reflection of the red car. Kind of looks like a pinstripe across the fender. But all the chrome, all the trim, all the stainless on the car was highly polished. The chrome was redone very, very, very nicely. Has some the factory mags on it. He threw a set of radials on it, so the car is not 100% unmistakable from the back. 1968, an incredible year. In weeks to come, we will show you the difference between a 68 Charger, a 69 Charger, and a 70 Charger. Some very discernible differences, very quick to notice. So we'll bring that to you to show you what to look for at your next car show, so you can become an expert. And we'll get into some Ford Mustangs and show you differences there as well. We'll get into some Camaros, and then we have Buicks and Oldsmobiles. The 442s have become very popular at shows. From the 68 to the 70, they're popping up all over the place. And then, of course, there's the 69 Hurst Olds. We'll give you some background information on those. So a lot yet to come here on the Muscle Car Appraisal YouTube channel. Car show season is in full swing. So we'll be attending shows here and there. We'll have some photographs, we'll have some stories, we'll have background stories, and some specific information. We'll bring some cars that are for sale to your attention. And if I get my eyeballs on them hard and heavy, I'll be able to communicate with you about some specifics for the car, give you my opinion as to the way some things looked at, and we'll be happy to have you be involved with us to seek and search your next car. Speaking of that, I'm on the hunt for a 71 to a 73 Mustang convertible V8 automatic with air conditioning. I know the price range that they run in. I need a good quality driver car. Something that's been gone through. Something that's not going to nickel and dime my customer to death. He's not looking for an absolute show car. He wants to take the wife out and kids for a cruise. Stop and get some ice cream sometime. Maybe he'd take it out on a Saturday or Sunday morning for cars and coffee with himself. Maybe they'll take it to the beach for the day and do some cruising. Again, not looking for an extreme show car, but he does want something rock solid that runs and drives well, very proper, and is not going to nickel and dime him to death. So again, reach out to me on mycaronmca@gmail.com. Let me know if you see a car for sale. I'll be happy to check it out and see if we can bring another car to a happy muscle car appraisal customer. So, Bob, do we have anything interesting going on in the chat this evening?
Yeah, they want to talk about the rumor about Ford and GM merging together.
Can't imagine that happening. I think I would have heard about that by now. I have friends with feelers out in the market. I was talking to one of them late this afternoon. And Don, one of my staff members, he watches the news like a hawk. He did not say a word, and Don would be the first one to tell me. And we chatted for a couple hours about many different things today, some business-related things, some other car-related things. He didn't say a word, and he watches the news like a hawk. And then Maurice is one of my staff members. He's my hardcore Ford guy. Maurice would have picked up the phone and say, Jim, you're not going to be able to stand this, nor are you going to be happy, but Ford is going to merge with General Motors. Haven't heard a peep about it, and at this particular point, I can't imagine that it's going to happen. There was some collaboration between Ford and GM on the 10-speed automatic transmission, and they did an absolutely wonderful job. They got in bed together with each other on that, but after that, I don't see any type of a merger happening. General Motors has got a lot of plans. They got a C8 Corvette coming out pretty soon. There's all kinds of renderings about that car. That's a great topic of conversation, the first rear-engine Corvette. Lots of speculation as far as its performance in the quarter mile 0 to 60. How's it going to stop? What's it going to run on the Nürburgring? What's it going to run at VIR? All kinds of information floating around about that car. Cadillac's going in a new direction, getting rid of the ATS and the CTS. There's a CT4, a CT5, a CT6. They're into the crossovers and the SUVs. There's the Black Hawk engine, twin turbo V8. It's going to be 550 horse. That's going to be exclusive to Cadillac. I don't know for how long. That's yet to be determined, but in the beginning, it's going to be a Cadillac only engine. So Cadillac's got a direction they're going in. The whole GM line. Buick has got a station wagon that's going to be coming out. Haven't heard a peep of anything with Ford. Ford's got its Mustang GT 500 coming out, claiming to be something over 700 horse. It'd be interesting because if you look at the Roush Jackhammer Mustang, Ford just may come out with a different version of that and just tune it a little bit different and be over 700 horse, because the Jackhammer is certainly over 700 horse. and that car runs like a raped ape. I have a friend that has one. As a matter of fact, he's going to be a guest on our show in the weeks to come. Happens to be an agent for Haggerty Insurance. So we're going to be talking to John. We'll discuss insurance, what Haggerty has to offer to you, what he's been doing with his Roush Jackhammer Mustang. I know he went to the Skip Barber Racing School, and he's been on the Lime Rock, Connecticut racetrack with the car, driving it hard. He's got some background on that car. It was a promotional vehicle at the Barrett-Jackson auction last year at the Mohegan Sun Casino in June. They called him up and said, hey, John, can we use your car for promotional purposes? So he made the deal. The car got down there. There's paperwork and photographs for that. So that's going to be a real interesting conversation. So stay tuned in the weeks to come. You should be tuning in every week. Tell all your friends. This is the place on Wednesday night to be for your automotive talk. We're up for anything. Questions, discussions, bench racing. If you're a hardcore drag racer and you want to brag about your car lifting the front wheels, what you run for a 60-foot time, whether you run 1/8 mile, quarter mile, give us all your stats. Send us some pictures. We're happy to talk about it. I can hold my own pretty well on a conversation about drag racing your car. We can even have a little contest where I can keep track of stats throughout the summer months as to who's racing their car, what's your quarter mile ET, who's got the fastest car, who's got the fastest Camaro. Share your stats with us, and we'll turn this into a little game and weekly bench race. Call out somebody that's called in. You know, the Mustang guy that videos in and tells you about his car and his modifications. Guaranteed there's going to be a Camaro guy around that says, I'm going to take my car to the strip and I'm going to show you what it's really like. You can get that rivalry between the Mustang and the Camaro guys going. And then this is the place to hash it out. Wednesday nights, 9 o'clock, Muscle Car Appraisal on YouTube. What else do we have in the chat going on this evening there, Bob?
That's pretty much it.
Pretty much it. Well, we're just about at the 10 o'clock hour. Again, we remind you to visit our hashtag Insane Friends community. If you need to go back and watch the replay to see when everybody has their live shows, make note of it. Join them. Speaking of joining, after this show is over, everybody can hop over to the video call-in show. Jim there is a friend of ours, has given us a lot of time for technical help. We're very appreciative of his time and efforts and his information. He's a true professional. It's what he does for a living. Has been involved in the audio-visual world for years and years. A lot of very, very strong background for Jim. Video call-in show, 5 nights a week, 10 p.m., right here on YouTube. So after you're done watching our live broadcast here, everybody can jump on over, say hi, tell him you saw us here, and that you jumped over to his channel. He's got a wide variety of topics. Wednesday evenings, he does channel reviews. He'll look at your header and how you have things set up on your channel, and he'll give you his opinion of suggestions as to how to promote your own channel. Change things around a little bit, maybe. Maybe you got it spot on already. And then the other nights of the week, he's open for discussion about anything. Friday night's a free-for-all. I've seen 6 or 7 people zoom in on his channel. It's a good place to be. Say hi to Jim at the video call-in show. Stop by and see all our community members at hashtag Insane Friends. Say hello to us. So, with that being said, we hope to see you here next week. Bring your friends. Tell them all during the week. Send us your photographs. mycar on mca@gmail.com. Thank you all for being here. We truly appreciate it. And we hope to see you all and more here next week. Thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your evening.